My name's Josh Ferguson. Woodworking is more of like a side, passion for me. So, Ferguson Woodcraft and Design is my creative outlet. My day to day is in renewables. So I've been in, the solar industry since 2003, but I've always had a passion for like building and creating and making. But what really sparked like that, me taking the next step with it was, we bought a house back in 2015. I had a hard time, paying people to do stuff that I figured I could do myself. I just started to buy some tools, got some hand-me-down tools, and really just kind of got into it. I remember when I was younger, I wanted to be a carpenter, and my grandma was like, "Hey, what do you want to do when you get older?" It's like, "I want to be a carpenter," and she's like, "You don't want to do that. There's no money to be made there." So she like squashed that dream super early on. I think it's kind of always been something that I've been passionate about, but it just kind of like went by the wayside, right? Like life took over, but only, through the process of buying a house and just trying to pinch pennies, really, did I like reignite that passion. So it's kind of a, blessing in disguise. I know that a lot of people in my trade or up and coming in the trade spend a lot of time like researching on YouTube. Honestly, I probably should have done more of that. I'm very much so like a learner by doing. Oftentimes it results in me like over engineering stuff. So it's definitely a character flaw that I have of my own. I see something, and just like the way that my mind works, I have a kind of a pretty good ability to break down the process on how I would need to build it or accomplish the task. I really I break it out into these like mini steps in my head, and then I just kind of attack it. Certain things, I'll reach out to like the community, just like really the community surrounding Truewerk has been a blessing. But even prior to that, just trying to reach out to local woodworkers. The woodworking community is pretty tight. That's been an avenue that I've kind of ventured down. When I'm kind of in an uncomfortable situation where I can't really rely on my own abilities or my own comfort level to kind of execute. A lot of trial by error and over engineering, but that's how I've learned to do a lot of stuff. Earlier on, I was definitely taking on more projects that I felt like I needed to do to, establish myself, help to build out the shop, and really challenge myself. One thing that a lot of people don't really understand as they get into, woodworking or really any trade is like you don't need as much as you think you need to get going. It's definitely harder with, a smaller collection of tools and machines. But it's pretty surprising how much you can get done with, how little you have. I think a lot of times people get a little overwhelmed and get in over their head by, oh, I want to get into this. I want to start this out, but I need everything. I need this. I need that. Like these things are going to make me successful and I'm going to be able to progress. I'm going to be great like these folks, but you don't really need a ton of things. You just need to have the willingness to, dive in and get your hands dirty. Early on is the hardship because you want to be able to work efficiently, but you kind of have to put in the time and energy, the sweat equity in order to, get to a point where you can comfortably afford the machines and tools. And again, that kind of goes for any trade. And I think, like what this pandemic has provided folks is a lot of clarity surrounding being able to get by on a lot less, typically just like financially, right? I think that it's kind of a good sentiment to carry into different areas of your life, this being one of them. There's a ton of influence out there that, have huge accounts, huge followings, lots of sponsors, great shops, great tools, everything that you need and more. But it's a gross misunderstanding for people kind of getting into it now. It's like, you really don't need all of that. It's nice to have, right? It's a luxury. It helps. There's definitely tools out there that are designed to be safer for you, but I think you still, kind of need to work your way up. So when I first started in solar, working for my family's company in 2003 out in California, we kind of hit a slow time. So me working out in the field, installing solar panels or solar hot water or solar pool systems, I needed to, stay busy. So I kind of got pushed into the office, and my role transitioned over to designing systems for like permit packages. I did a lot of that early on, And then prior to that, I kind of dabbled in some like graphic design work for a couple of my friends, like artist management companies that they had. So I do like posters and like record covers and things like that. The translation from working more of like an architectural style design to woodworking translates very well. So like I like to, hop on AutoCAD, get designing on a project, figure out my cut lists. I'll use like AutoCAD, and I took some courses on AutoCAD and got certified in that. Really just through solar for designing. But again, it's just one of those, like unbeknownst life skills that has translated pretty well to, to this passion that I have. I feel like woodworking is ever evolving. I don't feel like I've mastered my craft by any means. And I think that anybody that really says that they've mastered it is, at least in the woodworking community, I can't speak to, electrical and plumbing, but anybody that says that they've mastered, the woodworking craft is, maybe being a little closed-minded. It is ever evolving. I've had like those projects that like click, and I'm like, okay, this is stuff that I enjoy doing. I want to focus more on this stuff. And these are projects that I don't like. So I want to try to, avoid some of those customers or those types of projects. So I've definitely like learned just by doing. But no, there hasn't been this aha moment where I'm like, okay, I've really mastered my craft. Because like, honestly, 90% of woodworking is like fixing your errors and making it look good. Or at least again, that's been my experience in it. But no, I definitely don't feel like I've mastered the craft, and I don't know that I ever will. And to be honest with you, I don't know that I ever want to. I've had people ask if I want to do this full time, and it's like I don't want to do it full time because it's an outlet for me right now. It's something I enjoy doing. I don't want it to be something that I have to do. I want this to be a space where like my kids can enjoy. I have two sons, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. Growing up, I always wanted a space like this, and I never had it. So part of me is doing this so that they have an option, should they choose to use it, it's there. But yeah, I never want it to be a full-time gig. I never want to hate doing what I'm doing. And not to say that would be the case, but I don't want to have to do it. I just want to be able to come out here and enjoy doing it. There's definitely areas in woodworking that I haven't ventured down, and a lot of it's, like hand tool work. It's something that I would like to look into at some point. So I guess that's kind of a skill, something that I'm looking forward to spending more time doing. One thing that's always difficult is as you start working on projects, it's pretty important to have tools and machines that are tuned up, square, aligned, things of that nature. So like tool maintenance is tough. It's time consuming. It's something that I don't really love doing. It's the necessary evil. Early on, I was just so dead set on like all my machines need to be, like 90 degrees, needs to be 90 degrees. It can't be 89 and a half. Like everything needs to be exactly what it is. And I would just struggle when it wasn't. And I would spend so much time and energy trying to get the machines to be perfect. It's just more of accepting what you can't completely control and just making it work. That's been something that I've tried to adjust to. You can do more with less, and just having a very deep understanding and respect for machines is extremely important. Like recognize your limitations and try not to go too far past them, especially when it comes to working with some of these machines, because machines don't care your race, your ethnicity, your gender. They don't care how wealthy or poor you are. If there's a lapse in judgment with some of these machines, they're not very forgiving. So there's a ton of consequence revolving around that. So really, it's just respect the machines that you're working with. Try to work within your limitations. Definitely, push yourself, but really just have a good understanding and respect for the stuff that you're working with, because it will not respect you. Again, like you guys have been a great partner. It's exciting to see the growth of Truewerk, from back when I started a couple of years ago with you guys. So it's been awesome working with you guys, seeing the evolution of your clothing and seeing the growth of your brand. And I'm excited to see what the future has in store for Truewerk.